Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here, again, no hazardous weather of any type here on the graphic anywhere in the state for the next, or at least for tonight and tomorrow. Good conditions. We do have a storm coming into the Bering Sea, but that shouldn't kick off any public warnings. Maybe gale warnings, yeah, but not public warnings. So no advisories, watches, or warnings, at least for the moment. And next shot here, this is FAA webcam of Point Hope, way up on the northwest coast of the state there. Really nice day today. You can see maybe a few clouds off in the distance here, possibly. Oh no, that's not, no clouds. I'm seeing a light flare on the screen there. Otherwise, sunshine, winds on the light side, not too bad, and temperatures mild compared to what they could be this time of year. Definitely above freezing and could be close to 50 degrees. A real nice day across not only there, but other areas in the interior from the northwest coast there on east and southeastward, as well as southern Alaska. And also I wanted to plug a weather spotter talk that's going to take place in Kodiak, and this one got a little squished, I guess, to fit on the screen than I thought it would be. Anyway, a spotter talk for a weather spotter talk for in Kodiak at the public library on September 18th at 6:30 p.m. And so if you're interested in the topic at all or want to become a weather spotter, show up at the public library in Kodiak, 6:30 p.m., September 18th. And for skip the monitors, and we'll go right to fire danger. Not a lot of change from what we had yesterday here up in the interior, because really nothing has changed since yesterday. No precipitation and another mostly sunny day up there. So really about holding a stationary status quo, just some areas of high fire danger here. Nothing really serious anywhere in the state. And satellite imagery showing some cloudiness here lingering, kind of extending back to the west there. That's sort of a kind of a boundary with an upper trough axis with the bulk of the energy off into Canada. That kept some showers going today over the Northway Tok area into the eastern Alaska range areas there. Mentasta Pass, just some showers. For example, Chisana had 0.05 of an inch, while Northway picked up about 1/10 of an inch today. So even though that was light, and you can see flow from the northwest here, clearing it out, Kodiak, and also across the Kenai Peninsula. And with the warm air aloft, that allowed temperatures to warm to near 70 degrees, and in the case of Seward, 72 degrees this afternoon. That's pretty good for this late in September. And even over the Kenai Peninsula, central Kenai, pushing 70 degrees, as well as I think Copper River Basin, Gulkana was near 70 degrees at mid-afternoon today. So high pressure came in, the system moved off, and really nice day around the state. Out to the west, we've got the moisture field with the warm front, or the frontal boundary here, already up to the southwest coast, and rain right on its heels, just back off the coast if it hasn't begun already. And some pretty gusty winds across the Alaska Peninsula as that system approaches. For example, Cold Bay seeing gusts to about 35 miles an hour this afternoon out of the southeast. And the front bringing rain northward toward the Pribilofs, extending back toward the Adak-Atka area. The front you can just see bringing rain this afternoon into Adak, has yet to reach Atka, but could start at any time. Otherwise, the interior here looking pretty good with areas of sunshine. Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, all the way down across Kodiak Island, and clearing out over the southeast coast and the north. Lingering showers are lingering here over the southern areas with this system that came across the Gulf from the yesterday and last night, and that's moving out currently. So rainfall amounts are lightening up, showers are tapering off, and getting some sunshine back up to the north there. And going to that again, you can see the spin of the low pressure center there sliding off to the southeast, and that should end the shower activity here in the next couple hours over the southern southeast coast. And on the chart today, amounts in the last 12 hours down there, Ketchikan picked up another ½ an inch of rain there, so kind of beat back the drought a little bit, but not everywhere saw that kind of rainfall. Wrangell, for example, only had 1/100th of an inch, and then areas up to the north near nothing at all. And again, northwest flow here warming the temperatures up with gusts 25 miles an hour, warm temperature at Seward to 72 this afternoon. And also gusts to 35 miles an hour out of the northwest occurred at Cordova, and probably other channeled areas here in Prince William Sound. So pretty gusty north to northwest winds today, and also with some sunshine. And then the showers here are mainly of the eastern Alaska range, kind of back to the west a little bit, tapers off, otherwise dry with mostly sunny skies here over the interior. North of the Brooks Range hanging on to some clouds there in areas, and the rainfall here spreading northeastward right to the coast tonight. That will spread inland here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta in toward northeast Bristol Bay. Wet and windy for the Alaska Peninsula, all the way back to the front itself, which will be right over the Fox Islands about 3-4 a.m. in the morning. And the Pribilof's rain trough, or strongest winds this evening until the front pushes through, but it'll stay breezy, blustery, and damp right on through the night tonight. Interior here, just variable clouds, light winds, fair skies, dry conditions, North Gulf Coast, Kodiak, and northward all the way to the Arctic coast. You'll probably see some fog along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast to the central areas, but offshore flow will keep that out of the area, so not bad. Could be VFR flying in that area like you saw today. And the southeast coast, dry, light winds, and this weak low here keeping a threat of some showers over toward the border. Otherwise, this system out of the picture now. And for Sunday, tomorrow, we'll see this low, the surface low, tracks just about due east here, along with the upper level feature, and once it jumps across the Alaska range, might take a little bit more of a southeast turn or east-southeast turn. Anyway, look for rain across all of southern Alaska, spreading eastward. Moderate here, southern Kenai Peninsula up into western Prince William Sound with the upsloping conditions there. And rain will try to get into the Copper River Basin. Just look for mainly increasing clouds there. Could get into the southern western portions of the Copper River Basin by tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, a mostly sunny day here in store for the southeast coast once again, with light winds, temperatures rising in many areas into the lower to mid 60s. Maybe some low clouds and fog along the coast, but shouldn't be anything major. Partly and mostly sunny north of the Alaska range there, the Tanana Valley, 40-mile country up to the Fort Yukon area, and also back across the Koyukuk Valley, Kobuk Valley, right on out to the Selwyn Valley. And in this trough here will keep some scattered shower conditions along the northwest coast, or produce them up into the Arctic coast, but nothing serious. All the storminess down here to the south, a couple of troughs rotating around that. That'll kick those winds up. Probably looking at gale force winds here for the Alaska Peninsula as that trough passes, a weaker one up near Nunivak Island. Otherwise, high pressure redeveloping here out over the western Bering Sea. And the outlook for Monday, the first day of the new week, or actually Sunday's the first day of the new week. System tracks in toward the central Aleutians the next one, and that'll bring probably small craft advisory winds with another round of rain into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, bearing down on the Pribilof Islands, and then return flow around that for northerly winds, possibly gales here on the back side of this. And then northwest flows, as this system tracks eastward, they'll spread rain into Kodiak as early as Sunday night, late tomorrow night, but definitely on Monday, some more rain moving in, a little bit of a pickup in the wind, south-southeast, maybe gusts 25, possibly 30 along the coast. Northerly flow behind that's going to dry it out here, so sunshine, Kodiak Island, and becoming partly sunny at least here south-central Alaska. Showers here over the eastern Alaska range, 40-mile country. This trough up to the north, that's pulling some much colder air down, and so mixture precipitation possible or likely here with any elevation at all. Likely looking at some light snow conditions as cold upper trough drops into the northern part of the state, although southern areas won't see much in the way of any significant cooling. So pretty nice, mild, sunny afternoon coming up for Monday afternoon over the central southern part of the state, back to the Seward Peninsula, also maybe the southwest coast. And for lows tonight, eastern interior areas, upper 20s to mid 30s with Eagle, for example, as well as Arctic Village looking at a low of 29. Mid 30s, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, upper 30s, mid to upper 30s back to the west, and then 40s here over the western part of the state, right out to the Bering Sea. Lower 50s, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and near 50 in the Aleutians, Kodiak Island, and 40s for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow into the 60s for the southeast coast here with mid 60s again, maybe 67, 8, or 9 in the Tanana Valley. Cooler, not as warm here over the Susitna Valley in southern Alaska due to the system coming in, and upper 50s for Bristol Bay. Lows the following morning on Monday. A little milder here with more moisture in, so keeping it above the frost point. Look for lows near or below freezing here for the Brooks Range and North Slope, and mid 30s, lower to mid on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. 40s and near 50s here, southern Alaska, all the way out to the Aleutians. And then for the afternoon highs, still possibly getting in the lower 60s here, Kenai Peninsula, Bristol Bay definitely, and the Susitna Matanuska Valley. 50s for the Panhandle with more clouds and rain in that area, and upper 30s along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, moving on into flying weather here. First graphic, we've got massive IFR here over the Bering Sea, right on up under southwesterly flow, right in across the southwest interior Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, maybe in the southern Kuskokwim Valley, and then up along and on the east side of the western Alaska Range, kind of bypassing Kodiak there and lifting northward toward the North Gulf Coast. Still some VFR in the interior, IFR central north slope there on out to the coastline, and the southeast coast from roughly Yakutat through the Wrangell Mountains, southern Wrangell Mountains, down across the Panhandle, VFR for Sunday afternoon. Still VFR here for the southeast coast and into the Alaska Range here. Much of the central interior pretty good, looking at a pretty good afternoon. Maybe some marginal stuff here. Southern Yukon Flats, IFR, eastern North Slope and Arctic coast. IFR right in across Cook Inlet, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, right on down, lowering conditions, especially on the north coast. So it could go marginal VFR for Elfin Cove and Yakutat especially tomorrow afternoon. And then for Monday morning, one zone here of VFR right over the west central interior. And then it looks like marginal VFR for portion of the Tanana Valley northward becomes IFR again, Brooks Range and North Slope, mainly on the central and east side. IFR now in across the southeast coast, and some more back to the west here over the northeast Pacific or eastern Gulf and along the North Gulf Coast. And mostly IFR, otherwise marginal VFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, VFR, Kodiak, right up into Cook Inlet and the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, Matanuska Valley taking a little longer to become VFR, but staying marginal over the Copper River Basin and IFR over the mountains, eastern Beaufort Sea coast into the North Slope there, IFR, otherwise marginal. And you can see kind of a general zone here of VFR trying to develop. Even a little bit better here for the eastern Bering, marginal VFR, still some lingering IFR over the southwest, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, and more IFR near the Pribilofs on down into the Aleutians. And going on, two passes. For tomorrow, Anaktuvik, possibly marginal VFR at times throughout the day. Bulk of the moisture just to your west there could be enough. It might be VFR, kind of split the difference. I think Adigan will be VFR throughout the day tomorrow. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR becoming marginal. Lowering conditions in the afternoon as that system comes through. And actually probably in the late morning, conditions coming down. Rainy, VFR becoming marginal, and windy looks VFR. Isabel, VFR, and Mentesta, VFR, and Tanita, also VFR. Portage, same forecast VFR, and for Chilcoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels up here, a little cooler air, not all that cold though. 2,000 feet, still north of the eastern Arctic coast though, but on the chart anyway, and 4,000 to 6,000 feet up over the eastern Brooks Range on out to Kaktovik, and 8,000 feet here from the North Gulf Coast, Gulf of Alaska back to the northwest, and about 8,000 or so for the Panhandle. And then pretty good gradient here across the Bering Sea and the Aleutian, supporting that strong southwest jet. It's going to be pushing that moisture right in, although the main upper low is going to track just to the south of Cook Inlet or so, possibly kind of coming up and then back down to the southeast. Otherwise, we've got 12 to 14,000 foot freezing levels out here over the Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula. A little cooler, 6,000 feet northern Bering Sea. Icing, bulk of moisture sliding up, so be some areas of considerable moderate rime icing along in advance of the front here, south central Alaska, back into the Gulf, and some of that even possibly in the northern Kuskokwim Valley areas, with icing extending all the way out across Yukon Delta to Norton Sound, and improving over Kodiak as it shifts through, and then some more icing way up there, 13,000 feet over the Aleutians. Jet stream, upper level low, coming kind of northeast, will take a turn to the east here tomorrow and jump the Alaska Range, then kind of slide a little east-southeast. So the strongest jet will stay to the south, higher pressure up over the northern Bering, and 3,000 feet, here's that low coming across, and pretty good winds, 30 to 40 knots coming across the southeast Bering, Alaska Peninsula near and south of Kodiak Island, going to turbulence, moderate chop, Kodiak Island, all the way back to Akanatka.
We're at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're about 20 minutes before the launch of ICESat-2. You might see the white light off in the distance. That's the Delta II rocket.
It kind of feels like an idea that was always going to just stay an idea. But no, it's real. It's sitting on top of the rocket.
You know, and for me, it's kind of surreal. Like you say, it's been 10 years, and it's hard to believe. It's like, we're really here? This is really about to happen? It's totally cool.
This is Dr. Tom Newman. Over the years, his work has taken him to some pretty remote areas to study changes in the ice regions of our planet. And his research, among many others, has defined the goals of the new NASA satellite, the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICESat-2.
And we have ignition. And
the story of ICESat-2 really begins with ICESat-1. ICESat told us all kinds of cool things about the ice sheet and about sea ice that we didn't really know to ask. That data allowed us to measure elevation change of ice sheets in a way that we hadn't been able to before, and showed that all the action on the ice sheets, the places that were really changing quickly, were around the edges. So when we were thinking about what could we do better next time, we knew that was one key component.
In addition to the edges of the ice sheets, ICESat-2 needed to measure a dimension of sea ice that remained elusive: its thickness. To figure out how thick sea ice is, you can measure the height of ice sticking out of the ocean, or freeboard, and compare it to the height of water between the sea ice flows, called leads.
The problem is, sea ice is really dynamic, and those cracks open and close various places in the ice pack throughout the day, throughout the year, and what we need to do is have measurements of the ocean whenever it's available, wherever it occurs in the sea ice pack.
To solve that problem, ICESat-2 was designed with a fast pulsing laser instrument to take precise, near-continuous measurements across its 3 pairs of beams. For 10 years, everything about the mission was designed to measure rapid changes in the most rapidly changing part of the cryosphere. But it has to get into space first.
But it's a huge transition going from the ground to in space. We've spent better part of 10 years, thousands of people have been involved, and actually seeing the rocket there on the pad with all of that work kind of all put together in one place, it's pretty amazing. And then getting up in the middle of the night to go watch the actual launch, it's sort of surreal in a way, because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, Whoa, you know, it's a big deal.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Lift off. Lift 1.
Thanks, sweetie. That was awesome. Totally cool. There it went. That was Atlas. Last Delta 2, heading on out.
So Atlas has been turned on over the course of the first few weeks of the mission, really culminating for us with the laser. So this is our first look at sea ice data from ICESat 2, and it looks fantastic. The signal levels look great. We've got plenty of photons there. We're capturing ridges. We can clearly see the ocean. All sorts of cool stuff in there, and this is just our first data. It's only going to get better from here on out.
The data from ICESat 2 is well on its way into digging deeper into the unknown dimensions of sea ice sheets, and glaciers. It will shed light on changes in sea level and global weather patterns, and once again find new things about ice we didn't know to ask.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
Slight chance the flight may see ICESat 2 in their center windscreen. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6,
That's gonna
5, 4, 3, 2.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at tomorrow's coastal water forecast here. Northwest winds, 20 knots for much of the outer coastline here, seas 8 feet. And then really light westerlies at just 10 on the extreme north coast. Lynn Canal, south winds 15 knots. Lighter, more variable wind conditions here for the central southern inside waters with seas no more than 2 feet. Outlook for Monday, big change. Storm coming in, next front, so gales out for all of the coastline. East and southeast winds increasing to 35 knots, seas building to 11 feet here on the outer coast, and Clarence Strait coming up to 30 knots out of the southeast in the afternoon. Stevens Passage, gale force gusts in the forecast, sustained winds at 20 from the southeast, but gusts to 35 with 4-foot seas, light winds for Lynn Canal. Prince William Sound tomorrow, east winds 15 knots with 3-foot seas. We have small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast. Southerly winds here at 25 and then southeast 25 for the west side. Barren Island, south winds 30 knots, southeast 30 knots for Kamishak Bay. And Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, small craft advisory southeast at 25. Otherwise north of the Forelands, east to 20. Outlook for Monday. Lighter winds, and they swing around to the west. West winds at about 10 knots for Cook Inlet with 2-foot seas. Small craft advisory westerlies for Kamishak Bay at 25 knots, even a little stronger there for the Barren Islands. West at 30, turning northwest at 30 knots for the western North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound, basically mostly west at 15. Seas around 3 feet. And then gales for the eastern North Gulf Coast there on the northwest side of that storm, heading into the Panhandle. Northeast 35, seas 13 feet. And for Kodiak Island tomorrow, south to southwest, 30 knots, seas running 9 to 10 feet. And Sitkinak to Castle Cape, southwest at 30 with 11-foot seas. And then we've got west winds here for the Alaska Peninsula, pretty brisk, 30 knots on the Bering Sea side. Gale force, minimum gales on the Pacific side, seas 11 to 12 feet. Gale warnings out for Bristol Bay, southwest 35, and seas building to 10 feet. And the outlook for Monday, not much of a diminishing in the winds, though, a little bit, turning northwest at 30 for Bristol Bay, and still winds 25 to 35 knots here for the Alaska Peninsula for Monday, 9 to 12-foot seas. And we got northwest gales in the forecast for the east side of Kodiak Island, and small craft advisories for Shelikof Strait for west winds at 25. For the Fox Islands tomorrow, small craft advisories, westerlies 30 knots for Unalaska Island, 25 knots for Unmac Island. Seas running all areas there, 9 to 12 feet. 20 to 25 knot westerlies for Adak and Atka, and seas 8 to 11 feet. And then pretty light winds for the western Aleutians, west-northwest 10 to 15. And then the outlook for Monday, northwest 30 knots there for the far western Aleutians, say from Kiska Island to Shimianatu. And then Kiska to toward Adak here, toward Adak, but not quite, northwest 35. Adak and Atka specifically, south to southeast 25 to 30 knots. And that same forecast also good as you head over toward Nikolsky. And then on Alaska Island, kind of a east wind on the north side, southwest on the Pacific side, 25 knots with 7-foot seas. Southwest coast, southern Nunivak Island, that's where the wind will be, with southwest at 30 knots, seas 9 feet. Small craft advisories to the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island for 25 knot winds. You can see along the Yukon Delta coast, lighter winds north 15 to 20 knots. Along the coast, right up to St. Lawrence Island, light northeast wind for Norton Sound. And that holds through Monday for Norton Sound, north 20, St. Lawrence Island. Northwest winds here, 20 to 25 knots, strongest south of Nunivak Island there along the southwest coast, and northeast at 20 for the Pribilofs, and northwest 15 for St. Matthew Island. The Beaufort Sea coast here, central and east side, east winds pretty uniform, 20 knots, seas uniform as well, 4-foot seas in the forecast. Brisk wind small craft advisories for the western coast, east at 25, and then from Cape Beaufort down to Wales, north to northeast at 20. Outlook for Monday, north 25, Wales up to Cape Beaufort, 25 knot northeasterlies on the west side, northeast 20, central and part of the eastern coastline there with small craft advisories over toward Demarcation Point. And for tonight, I'll just roll them through, running out of time here. And for Monday, another storm into the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.